All right, I think we're live. All right, everybody, happy Sunday. Hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully you had a very restful and relaxing weekend. You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've made in my early career is overworking myself. And I think it's interesting to touch on that before we start the stream, and I'll tell you why. Rest is critical. Rest is important. Hold on one second. Anyway, so rest is critical, rest is important, especially if you are working long hours, if you are a sales professional, if you work on Wall Street or management consulting, really anything. I mean, you could be a nurse, really any profession. I don't know why I'm minimizing it down to a few, but trust me, as you get older, as I am, it's important to prioritize rest because at a point you have what's called diminishing returns. So you could work 90 hours a week, 80 hours a week, but how many of those hours are you actually being productive? How many of those hours are you actually maximizing productivity out of those hours? So as I've gotten older, as I've gotten wiser, I've learned to prioritize. I'm just watching this guy real quick. I've learned to prioritize my time. And learning to say no to people. I think the number one thing as you get older, obviously when you're younger, you want to be a yes man and want to say yes to everybody in your career. But I think as you get older, you need to sort of develop what I like to call a callus. It's sort of like when you're doing pull-ups. For the first couple of weeks you do pull-ups, you're going to start to get blisters on your hands. But as you do them over the course of weeks, months, and years, you develop this sort of callus. And this rough skin. So I think once you start to prioritize your time, you will understand that, not only weekends are crucial for rest, but it's important to get 8 hours of sleep a night. And I know this is sort of going off the rails to start the stream, but I think I wanted to touch on this because, many people who watch the stream work on Wall Street. Many people who watch the stream work in enterprise tech sales. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're nurses, they're C-level executives, maybe they're plumbers. Maybe they're home health aides. Doesn't matter. You need to prioritize your rest because once you're rested, you can really, really mitigate down and attack the exact things you need to do to be successful and maximize the amount of productivity. Because you could work 80, 90 hours a week, but are you actually being productive in those hours? Anyway, I'll digress. I'll stop talking. Guys, hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. Happy Sunday. It is back to work. Lots to cover tonight on the stream. Busy week on Wall Street. If we take a quick peek at futures, the S&P 500 E-mini futures contract, we're down about 14 points on the S&P 500. If we flip over to the NASDAQ 100, ticker symbol NQ, we're down about 42 points. And to round it off for the night, if we look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we are down about 123 points. Looking at commodities, if we look at crude oil, ticker symbol CL, we're down about $1, holding below the 50-day moving average. But tonight we're going to be doing our Markets a Look Ahead stream. I do want to just let everybody know we will not be streaming tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday. Okay, we will not be live Monday or Tuesday, but I promise we will be live on Wednesday. I need to take 2 days off from streaming. I have a big week ahead at work. But tonight we are going to be covering the Markets a Look Ahead stream. We're going to be talking about FedEx, their Investor Day, their Analyst Day. We're going to be talking about Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. We are also going to be covering on Tuesday the S&P Dow Jones Indices will be releasing its CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index for April. And then to round off the night on Friday, huge day on Friday. Obviously this week caps off the last week of the month, but it's also the last week of the quarter. So for any sales executives out there, you know that the pressure is on for this week as we round out the quarter. So why is Friday significant? Well, Friday is significant because it's July 1st. And on the first business day of every single month, the Institute for Supply Management releases its Manufacturing Purchasers Index for June. Forecasts, or many economists on Wall Street, are calling for a 55 reading, slightly less than May's 56.1 reading. And if you read the Behind the Street newsletter last week, I outlined in great detail why it is so critical for everybody to pay attention to the Institute for Supply Management's Pmi Index. So on the first business day of every single month, hold on, let me adjust the microphone here. So on the first business day of every month, everybody, we're in Central Park, by the way. I'm going to say what's up to the chat in a minute. But the first business day of every single month, which is this Friday, so it is already July, crazy to even think about that. But on July 1st, every single first business day of the month, the Institute for Supply Management will release its Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index for June. And the reason why this is so important is because the manufacturing sector of the U.S. economy makes up about 20% of gross domestic product, or GDP. So if you want to do a deep dive, if you want to read about the complete thesis why I believe the PMI numbers are so critical, please check out the Behind the Street newsletter. Last week, actually 2 weeks ago, I think we did a complete and total recap of just why the ISM PMI numbers are so important. But to cap off the night, or to start off the night, let's see who we have in the chat. I see Otto is here. Good to see you, Otto. Welcome. I see Adrian says, hey, Tom. Mohammed, hey, welcome, Mohammed. Long time no see. Always good to see you, Mohammed. Says, hey, Tom. Savi says, good evening, Tom and everybody. William Travis is here, says hello. Sally says, hey, Tom. RJ says, hola from Colorado. Good to see you, RJ. Hopefully you had a very restful weekend. I see Lisa in the chat. Good to see you, Lisa. I see Sabrina Fair. Welcome, Sabrina. Jimmy Anderson, yo, the one and only. Says, cheers, my dude. How have you been? I've been really good. I've been really, really good, Jimmy. Always good to see you. Hopefully everything is going well with you with the Beer and the Bets podcast. Jetstar says, good evening, Tom. Welcome, Jetstar. Tiffany Allen says, happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you, Tiffany. I'm wishing you a very happy Sunday afternoon as well. We are here, 59th Street, Central Park South, at the very beginning of Central Park, as we were last night. Mike and Mary says, hi, Tom from Florida. Love Florida. I will be back there maybe in about 2 weeks. I'll be back in Florida in 2 weeks. Sherry Rodrigo says, hey, Tom. Good to see you, Sherry. Samantha R says, already got here, 9 out of 9. Love that. I love that, Samantha R. Miss Brown Eyes is here, says, good evening all. Miss Brown Eyes. Hopefully you had a very restful weekend. So on tonight's stream, I think we may cut it short. I think we're going to go about 2 hours. But we are going to be walking to the Moynihan train station, 34th Street. In which case we will end the night and then have to take the Long Island Railroad home. But the two beautiful buildings you're looking at is 220 Central Park South and Central Park Tower. Absolutely gorgeous night here in New York. Michelle Henry is here, says, hey, Tom. Hey, Michelle. Vinny Castellano says, Maria sends her love, Tom. Thank you so much. Vinny Castellano, Maria Castellano from Staten Island. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. It definitely was a hot one. It was a very, very hot and humid weekend here in New York. It almost reminded me a little bit of Miami. It was about 90 degrees here. Lisa says, looks beautiful. Good to see you. Jimmy Anderson, welcome. Traveling Tips is here. Says, hey, Tom. Happy Sunday and happy New York City Pride. Yeah, so Traveling Tips. I believe that Pride Parade was today. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of it. I was actually doing some reading, doing some work. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining, my friend. Hopefully you had a good weekend. We're here on Central Park South. 21 Awesome says, hello, everybody. What's up, 21 Awesome? Good to see you. Iowa Oak, welcome. Hopefully you're well. Sonia C says it's hot in Canada too, and humid. Not too often we hear that, right? Not too often we hear it's hot in Canada. So everybody, let's walk. We're going to briefly do a lap around Columbus Circle. I'll take you guys over there, and maybe we'll walk down 8th Avenue. We haven't really been down 8th Avenue in a while on the stream, so maybe we'll do that. But right now we are looking at the horses here at Central Park South. Ross 77 is here. Good to see you, Ross. Hopefully you're doing well. So to kick off the week on Monday, everybody, we are going to be getting some pretty big data out of the housing market. So on Monday, which is the 27th, almost the end of the month. But before that, Jefferies Financial Group and Nike will be reporting earnings. So Jefferies is a large financial institution, in which case, ironically enough, last night on the stream, we're streaming right near the Jefferies Building in Manhattan, which is located on Madison Avenue. So look out for that tomorrow on Monday. Jefferies Financial Group and Nike will be reporting earnings. So hopefully, I think I'm probably a little bit more interested in Nike, mainly because it'll give us a little bit of a look into the supply chain disruptions. We'll get a little bit of a glance to see if supply chains are easing, and Nike is a premium product. So should sales and earnings increase, and if we see profit margins that are actually expanding as opposed to contracting, maybe that'll give us a little bit of insight into the health of not only the American consumer, but consumers around the world, specifically in emerging markets. But as we are standing right at the bottom of Ken Griffin, his apartment here at 220 Central Park South, we briefly talked about him moving Citadel Securities all the way to Miami, Florida from Illinois. But a big piece of economic news that we have coming out tomorrow is the National Association of Realtors. They're releasing their pending home sales index for May. Many economists on Wall Street estimate the reading of 99.3. This would be roughly even with April's numbers. But here's the thing that we need to watch out for. We need to watch out for a very big trend. And it's not the best news, but this is what I mean by that. So the latest contracting signs are showing a month-over-month decline. So even though that these numbers may be, they're not like Armageddon numbers altogether, but we're seeing deceleration in these numbers. So there's a couple factors that could be going into why we're seeing these numbers come down. Number one, interest rates are going up. I believe the average cost of a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is almost 6%. So I think about 5.67%, gunning for 6%, which is not good in terms of affordability. So if you just put it this way, let's say if the average consumer was looking for a house that was costing about $400,000, they're going to be paying between this time last year, about $1,000 more, or about 75 to 100% increase on their monthly mortgage payment. Because if you factor in that this time last year, mortgage rates were sometimes sub 3%, as crazy as that sounds. Now them being 6%, that's going to price a lot of people out of the market. So will this taper demand? Will this bring home prices down? I think that's to be determined. But the signs are absolutely there that the housing market is slowing, and I think rightfully so. I think for the long-term health of the housing market, the long-term health of the average American consumer trying to make their way from the lower class to the middle class, if housing prices actually peel off here at least 20%. So we'll see. Hey, War Walkers, is this the last Sunday of June? Good to see you, War Walker. We are here at Columbus Circle. It's a beautiful night out, although it is very humid out in the city. Bernard Friedman says, hey Tom, it's 80 degrees right now in New York. Good to see you, Bernard. Welcome. I see Anna is here, says gas prices are slightly going down. Yeah, so Anna, you're right. I mean, that is good news, right? So gas prices are coming down a little bit. At the beginning of the stream, we took a quick look at futures. So CL, ticker symbol CL, which is crude oil futures, I think they were down about $1. And the good news is that price is holding steady below the 50-day moving average. So I think it's very possible, now this isn't a guarantee, but I do think it's possible that in May is when we saw the top 4 crude. And I remember we were actually doing a stream the night crude oil hit about $130. So we have yet to break that $130 point. I think we got all the way up to maybe $125. But now we are on a steady decline, which should alleviate some of those pressures at the pump. Hey, Sabrina Fair is here. It says, hey Tom, it is 97 in Washington State. Wow, that's a scorcher. Western Mass Dave says, right, June just flew by. Indeed it did. You know, Friday is already July, so happy July, everybody. Disneyland says, rents are up, pushing more buyers in New York City if they can afford it. Dr. Longus says, no repeat of 2008 for the housing market. Yeah, I mean, I think I would have to agree. I really don't think we're going to see that cataclysmic collapse. You know, we've talked about this almost ad nauseum on the channel. You know, the reason why home prices came down so much in 2008 was for a couple reasons. And I think the number one reason, you know, as we're looking over the beautiful Deutsche Bank towers here, formerly known as the Time Warner Center, is because the underwriting standards were so horrible and so poor during 2006, 7, and 8, leading up to the financial crisis, that many people, you know, as they were swindled, many of them were swindled into taking adjustable rate mortgages, or ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. As interest rates went up, you know, their monthly payments, let's say, for example, they were expecting or planning on paying $1,500 a month for their home. As interest rates went up, you know, that $1,500 payment became a $2,000 payment. So you saw a massive, massive wave of defaults all at once, unfortunately, and then you saw a massive, massive boost of supply coming onto the market. Now, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I always tend to post some interesting economic data pieces, my viewpoints throughout the day. So if you follow me on there at Walks Wall Street, I think yesterday, or it may have been 2 days ago, I took a screenshot of a Wall Street Journal article that I thought was absolutely fantastic. And it showed single-family home inventories from the late 90s all the way up till today. And we are still, everybody, we are still at all-time record lows in terms of inventory of single-family homes on the market. Now, I do have to take the other side of that argument, I guess, to say that inventory is picking up. Okay, inventory is not on a one-way lower, one-way street lower. It is actually picking up a little bit, but still, even though after we had this little bit of pickup in single-family home inventories, we are still near all-time record lows. And the only way I think we're going to see a little bit of relief in the housing market is if we see a huge glut of single-family homes coming on the market. Now, I think if we get back to more regular, normal levels like we saw maybe in 2013, maybe prices would cool a bit, but it's very possible that by the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, that will correlate to higher mortgage interest rates. It may not knock down prices, but it may keep prices from going gangbusters like they've done over the past couple quarters here, over the past couple years here. So even though real estate prices may not come down per se, they may just not go up 20% a year. They may go up 1% or 2%, or maybe in some select markets that were really, really hot during the pandemic, maybe those numbers will cool. But in my view, everybody, I still believe that, you know, we really, really need a big, big bid in inventories here in order for home prices to cool. But now we are outside of One Central Park West. So this is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. So if you see here, you have the Jean George's. I always pronounce it wrong, which is I think it's a Michelin star restaurant. In the middle here, you have the hotel. And on the last entrance here is actually the residences. So if you like the hotel a lot, you could actually buy one of these units. And the interesting thing is that you're allowed to live in one of these units for a maximum, I think, of 6 months. And then the remainder of that time, you could actually rent it back to the hotel to make some income on that property, which is pretty interesting. I think many other hotels around New York do that as well. Deborah says it's pronounced John. Yeah, I'm not too good at the pronunciation stuff there. Dr. Longus says Trump International Hotel is amazing. Good to see you. Lewis says, good evening, Tom, and good evening, everybody. Good evening, Lewis. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully you're having a good Sunday. I see TPAC 5000 says, my hometown is so quiet, but New York, everything is slow. It was actually pretty busy today. I'm not going to lie, in New York, pretty busy. Deborah says it's French. So Deborah, I think you're right. Well, I know you're right. I've never eaten there. I really, really want to eat there, though. Definitely want to eat there. Yeah, somebody's talking about Per Se. Yeah, so Per Se, we might as well walk past it. I'll take you guys past it. Per Se is a French restaurant that is located in the Deutsche Bank Towers, formerly known as the Time Warner Centers. Paul says, how's the Airbnb going? Airbnb is going really well. So the Airbnb is going really well. I'll touch on that briefly. So as you guys know, in 2021, I purchased my first property in Miami, Florida. That is going to be my permanent residence, but I am also going to rent out 2 of the spare bedrooms, either to tenants or on Airbnb. But I think one of the bedrooms, 100%, I'm going to rent it out on Airbnb. If I price it at about $80 a night, that's going to be about 20% discount to all of the other listings in the neighborhood. So I think based upon my calculations and the data analysis that I've ran, I'm probably going to have almost a 90% occupancy rate, even though because I'm undercutting everybody by about 25%, 20 to 25% there. And the good thing is, if I rent out just one of the rooms for all, like, let's say 25 to 30 days out of the month, I'm pretty much going to cover my mortgage. So I'll pretty much live for free. And then if I do the same thing with the additional spare bedroom, the property is going to cash flow really, really nicely. So I will definitely keep you guys updated on that. I was back in Miami last week building all my furniture and stuff for the home. But definitely going to keep you guys up to date on that. Hey Carson, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Welcome. Western Mass Dave says, hey, that's pretty fair, Tom. Yeah, I think $80 a night is fair. You know, so I'll tell you guys roughly where I am. So right in the vicinity of like Aventura, Florida, Sunny Isles Beach. You know, you could rent an Airbnb for like $120 a night. So I feel if I come in at 80, I think I'll see that a huge spike in demand. And I don't need to beat people over the head. I just need to cover my expenses and I'm good. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know. It's a work in progress. I'll let you guys know. Soho is here. Says, yo, Tom. Hey, what's up, Soho? Good to see you. Arum Z says, what's up, Tom? How's it going? It's going really good. It's going really good. It's a beautiful night, beautiful weather here in New York City. Happy to be back in New York. Lisa says, beautiful location. Thank you, Lisa. Zone says, will you do all of the managing stuff, Airbnb, like cleaning and stuff? Yeah, so that's a very good question. And I'll answer that in two parts. First part is that for my first property, I'm going to be doing all the property management myself. So all of the cleaning, I'm not going to hire like a cleaning service or a maid or anything like that because I want to physically learn and from firsthand experience what customer complaints will be. Because guys, you got to be real here. There's going to be people that are complaining, or things are going to come up. The sinks are going to leak. You're going to have a leaky faucet. The toilets are going to clog up. Things like that. I want to be able to learn in process how to deal with those things, so I can then understand how to do it myself. And then as I scale and grow, I could hire a management company. And when the management company comes to me and says, oh, it's going to cost this amount to fix it, I'll know if they're essentially BSing me or not, because I will have experience in actually managing myself. So I think if you're just getting into real estate, if you're just buying a duplex, a triplex, in my view, and again, take this with a grain of salt because this is my first investment property I've ever bought. In my experience, it's good to do things on your own at first so you can actually learn the basics. And once you learn the basics, you can outsource, and then you know sort of what everything costs, right? So you know if you're getting ripped off by a property manager, things like that. But to answer your question, with this property, I am going to be doing everything on my own for now. And then as I scale, let's say in 2 years, if I buy another property or a duplex or a triplex or whatever it may be, then I will probably explore the option of a management company. Hey, the ABX girl is here from the Bronx. Good to see you, the ABX girl. Hopefully you had a very restful week. I see XOXX Bob. Welcome, Bob. Username, schmoozername. Says, do you find things like plumbers are much cheaper in Florida than New York? You know, I don't know. I haven't really called a plumber or anything as of yet, so I really can't advise on that as of now. But don't let it fool you. I mean, Southern Florida specifically is getting expensive. You know, if I just had to take a stab at it, I would probably say that the prices are very similar between Southern Florida and New York City, Long Island, tri-state area. Maybe a little bit less expensive, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's getting expensive. It's getting really expensive. Hey, EBITDA is here. What's up, EBITDA? Hopefully you're well. Hopefully you had a good restful weekend. Iris Lou says, Tom, nothing is difficult. Everything you need can buy in Home Depot. Yeah, you're right. I think maybe if I scale, I'm probably not going to be able to do it because, again, you know, sort of like we talked about at the beginning of the stream, I think there's something called, you know, diminishing returns. And I think I learned this the hard way very early on in my sales career. You know, I was pushing it really hard. I was working about, you know, 80 to 90 hours a week. So even though I was working those hours, you know, I sort of stopped and thought to myself, how productive am I going to be in those hours that I'm working? Or if I could just bite the bullet and start to say no to people, you know, work the 40 to 45 hours to 50 hours a week, get my appropriate rest, you know, I'm probably going to get a lot more work done within those hours. So I think it may turn out the same if I manage my own properties, right? So I think one property is good as a learning experience. I'll be able to manage that property by myself. But let's face it, if I scale, you know, over the next 10 to 20 years to 50 units, 100 units, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that by myself. While selling tech and while doing all my other stuff, there's no way. So, I mean, my blueprint, and it's sort of like I'm learning as I go, is learn the basics, learn how to do things on your own on a smaller scale, and then as you scale, delegate those tasks to your team that you trust. But I don't know. I mean, this is my first go about it. I mean, I guess I'll keep you guys updated. Sabrina Fair says, if I cut your hair, don't move your head. All right. Lewis says, Tom, experience is okay, but will you have time to handle all your doing and running your Airbnb correctly? So I think you're right, Lewis. I think you're right. I mean, as I first start off, I think I will. Okay, I think my first property I will, but as I scale, the answer is probably no. The answer is probably no. Yeah, Jerry says, Tom, a team you could trust is key. You're right. You're right. I mean, there's a lot of property managers out there that are not good. So, hey, OA says, hello everybody. I'm here from Brazil. Welcome to all of our viewers from Brazil. I see Sunshine After Rain in the chat. What's up, Sunshine? Welcome. Happy Sunday, everybody. Let me turn off my Wi-Fi here so we don't buffer. Michelle Henry says, when my grandma had her rent house, we did what we could on our own. Indeed. Hey, Carlos says, great talk. Hey, Carlos. So everybody, we're actually walking a bit uptown here. You know, we haven't been to Lincoln Center on the stream in a while. I think we'll visit there tonight. Might as well. You know, Lincoln Center is a beautiful, beautiful area, and I think we're actually going to walk one avenue over because I want to show you guys the brand new Fordham University campus. I believe that they just finished construction on it. So we'll check that out and then we'll head back downtown. Jewel Morris says, Tom, you're highly organized and that's a talent. I mean, I think I could improve on the organization, to be honest. I'm not the most organized person. I think I could be more organized, actually. Hey, it's the one, the only Realty by Lance. What's up? Say, hey, Tom, what are your thoughts on Citadel? Ken Griffin and Citadel HQ exiting the Windy City. Yeah, so Realty by Lance, you know, we sort of talked about this a little bit last night. So just to recap on that, for anybody who doesn't know, Ken Griffin, which is the top 50 richest people on earth, he is the founder and CEO of Citadel Securities, which is one of the top market makers here on Wall Street. Wow, Lincoln Center looks amazing. We're going to go check that out. One of the top quantitative firms, hedge funds on Wall Street. They will be exiting all operations in Chicago. Well, actually, let me take a step back. They're not going to exit all operations in Chicago, but they are moving their main headquarters to Miami, Florida. So this has been an ongoing trend, especially in the asset management business, the hedge fund business, private equity firms moving to Miami. But, you know, I think the Wall Street Journal article was a little bit clickbaity and disingenuous. And here's why, and we'll break it down tonight on the stream again, might as well. But before we do that, check this out. Lincoln Center looks absolutely gorgeous. Leave a like on the video if you guys think Lincoln Center looks phenomenal tonight. So Wall Street Journal said one of the main factors in Citadel leaving Chicago is the uptick in violent crime. Now, obviously, the uptick in violent crime is not exclusive to Chicago. You know, we're seeing all big cities across the country, be it New York, be it Miami, be it Austin, Texas, Houston, whatever it is, a lot of urban centers in America are unfortunately seeing an uptick in crime. But if you actually read deeper into the article, it said Citadel took an employee survey asking the employees where they preferred to work, and the vast majority of their Chicago employees actually responded to the survey and said that they would prefer to work in number 1, New York City, and number 2, Miami, Florida. So here's the reason why I think that Citadel moved. Number 1, obviously, because of the tax implications of moving to a very business-friendly state like Florida. I don't really want to get too political on the stream, but number 2, at the end of the day, if the vast majority of your employees are actually telling the CEO and the C-suite where they want to work, you kind of got to listen, don't you? I mean, you know, if they want to be in New York City, if they want to be in Miami, you definitely got to make the move. So they will be actually developing, I think, their own tower. I'm not sure exactly where. Maybe Realty by Lance, you probably know this a lot more than I do. But I believe Citadel Securities will be working with a major developer down in Miami, Florida to build a brand new office building that should be open in 2025. Hey, Samantha R says, I admit the score continues to rise the more we walk. Agreed. So this thing looks absolutely very unique, very beautiful here. This is Lincoln Center with a big disco ball over the fountain here. Hey, Marcelo is here. This is hello from Brazil. Welcome, Marcelo. Walking Minnesota is this big loss for Chicago. Yeah, I mean, you know, without getting too political, if we just want to cover the news here, this has been an ongoing trend for major corporations leaving Illinois. Okay, it's not just Citadel. You know, major big manufacturer of heavy equipment, Caterpillar, is leaving Illinois and heading to Texas. I believe Boeing is also leaving as well. So this is 3 major companies that are leaving Illinois. And I think, in my view, that Citadel is going to be the biggest hit not only to Chicago, but the state of Illinois, because Ken Griffin, you know, he's, I believe, in the top 50 richest people on earth. So if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this because I don't have the exact data in front of me. Every time I don't know something for certain, I always try to tell you guys. But I believe Ken Griffin is the #1 largest taxpayer in the state of Illinois. Now, you guys could Google that and fact check me. Maybe he's #2, but he's definitely in the top 10. So that's a huge loss for tax revenues. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a great thing for Miami. It's a great thing for Florida, the state of Florida. You know, these are really, really good jobs. So they're moving the hedge fund business down to Miami, Florida, which is good, Very good jobs. Shannon says, Tom, McDonald's is staying in Illinois. King says, Tom, your voice is amazing and brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yogi says, how many billionaires doubled their fortunes in the last 2 years? Doubled their fortunes, probably about a good 50% of them, maybe more. Hey, Solo401, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, this is like a reflective kind of cool thing here. Hey, Walking Minnesota says Griffin also spends a lot on people he wants elected. Yeah, you're right. You know, I believe in the Wall Street Journal article, to your point, that he donated well over $100 million to political organizations and things like that, and also the arts and education in Chicago specifically. So I think you agree. Cooking is here, says I've had coronavirus for the past week but feeling better. Please, please, please get better as soon as possible. We need you to stay healthy and safe so you can join in on the chat. So God bless you, my friend, and hopefully you have a speedy recovery. Honest says, looks like Miami with the lights. It kind of does give off that Miami vibe, doesn't it? It kind of does. Peter Webley. Peter Webley says, Tom, Ken Griffin is the 47th richest person in the world. Wow. Yeah, I think he has a net worth north of, what is it, 42 billion or 28 billion, I think? I think it's 28 billion bucks. Not too shabby. Lewis says, Tom, any comments on the tweet you put about the guy, the house in crypto? Any comments on the tweet you put about the guy, the house in crypto? Oh no, I'm just calling out like a lot of the Ponzi schemes that are going on in the cryptocurrency environment. So if you see any sort of cryptocurrency project promising investors returns of 25%, I mean, it's obviously a Ponzi scheme. And I think that the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is severely behind the curve here. So that's sort of what I was saying on that. Hey, Pmi Media is here. It says, yes, at first I thought you were streaming from Miami today. I just tuned in. Pmi Media, what's going on? You know, I think this probably may be a setup for Pride Month, perhaps. I'm not too sure, but it does look awesome nonetheless. There's a big disco ball here. We are at Lincoln Center in Manhattan, Lincoln Center. Realty by Lance is big win from Miami, but you are right, Tom. Crime is a concern in most large cities. Yeah, I think that, you know, a lot of media outlets, in order to get you to click on an article, right, they need to make like a big grandiose headline. It's just copywriting, right? I definitely do think crime was a factor there. I mean, usually the majority of the crime in Chicago is on the south side. But, you know, I think what's happening in the south side of Chicago is really tragic. I believe last weekend there was 48 people shot and I think about 5 people killed. I mean, if you think about that, you know, I've had friends who served in Afghanistan, and you didn't even have that type of stuff going on in Afghanistan, if you really think about it. So, I mean, 48 people shot over a weekend. I mean, that's like war zone right there. But let's see what this is. I don't think they'll tell us. Honest is the sound of police cars are apt for this discussion. Yeah, I know. Funny. Hey, Paul Tricky is here. Welcome, Paul. Luna Lee says, looks so peaceful. I could sit there all night. I know. Okay, I'll give you guys one more look at the fountain, and then we'll head down. We'll head downtown. Quinn says Lincoln Center is the best. I agree. Hey, Paulo says greetings from Brazil. What's up, Paulo? Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well from Brazil. Boule says, hey, what's up from Fort Worth, Texas? Love that. Western Mass Dave, good to see you. Usernames is people blame crime on the Chicago exodus, but I personally think it's most the taxes. Interesting. Hey, Kevin Baker, what's up? Says the disco ball will be up until August 14th. Also says there are events happening there throughout the time. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be here for it. Realty by Lance. Next time I'm in Florida, we're going to meet up, I promise. Shannon says, I live in Illinois. I think a lot of big companies look for tax breaks. Rivian in Normal, Illinois gets a bunch of them. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think taxes do play a big part in it, obviously. But I mean, not to get too political, and you guys sort of know my stance. I'm very open about it. I'm respectful to all sides. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. Doesn't matter. We're all hanging out, having fun every night on the stream. But you guys know I tend to lean more conservative in nature and my values and in my politics. But here's where I differ from traditional conservatives is, you know, being born and raised in New York, I really don't have a problem paying the high taxes. I don't. And I think if you ask anybody, you really don't. Here's the thing though, I'm a true strong believer in no taxation without representation. And I think over the past couple of years, not to dump on New York or anything, but I think you've seen at least a little bit of structural decline in the subway systems, in our police force, in the judicial system, and just a lot of this nonsense in relation to, you know, bail reform. So if the taxes are going to keep going up, but the services, the quality of those services are going to continue to go down, well, you know, I think, you know, you need to send a message to the city and the state to say, look, we have no problem paying these high taxes if we see our subways are safe, right? If you're not going to go in the subway and get blasted in the chest with a gun or get slabbed or slashed or something like that or whatever, you know, I think if the city starts to make things safer, which I think we're on the right track to doing that, you know, I have no problem paying those high taxes. But, you know, you've seen a lot of, especially the investment banks, the big consultants like KPMG, Deloitte, EY, actually sending out emails to their employees telling them to dress down, you know, sort of blend in with the crowd, don't wear anything flashy, because there has been an uptick in crime. And it's not just exclusive to New York. I think it's all big cities across the country. And I think it's a multitude of factors. I think the biggest factor, and you guys know if you've been watching the stream long enough, I think the biggest factor that goes into this huge crime spike, not only in New York, but big cities across the country, is the wealth gap, or the widening of that wealth gap. So as you have the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, it leads people to do desperate things. Okay, that is my take on it. And I think a lot of that stuff has been exacerbated by irresponsible fiscal policy as well as monetary policy from the Federal Reserve with the money printing, because when you print a bunch of money and provide the markets with ample liquidity, that liquidity goes somewhere, right? It just doesn't go to money heaven. So it tends to chase the too few assets that are out on the open marketplace. And if we look at the data, who owns all of the assets? Who owns the vast majority of equities in this country? Who owns the vast majority of real estate in this country? It is the top 10% of Americans. So as you print money, you inflate those assets. Therefore, the net worths of the top 10% of Americans grow higher and higher and higher. And it makes it extremely difficult for average everyday Americans to acquire assets, to get into a house, to build a stock portfolio, etc., etc., etc. In which case it makes it extremely difficult to jump up the ladder from the lower class to the middle class to the upper class. But we've covered that on the stream a lot. We've covered that a lot. Yeah, Gregory's like money heaven. I know. Robert says, why are some parts of Manhattan cleaner than others? Yeah, well, Robert, Manhattan's huge, right? Manhattan is really, really huge. I think just like any place anywhere, why are some places cleaner than others? For example, if you go to 59th Street, Billionaires Row, probably going to be spotless, right? Because people are spending, $80 million for an apartment. But other areas that may not be as serviced, maybe a little bit more dirty. But it's a beautiful night in the city tonight. We're here on West 61st Street and Broadway. Just for those of you who don't know where we are actually about to approach Columbus Circle, which is 59th Street, Columbus Circle. And in which case you will be able to see the Deutsche Bank towers, formerly known as the Time Warner Centers. And you're going to see a beautiful view overlooking Billionaires Row. One of which being Central Park Tower, which is one of the newest additions to Billionaires Row. I believe it is actually just completed, ready for tenants to move in. Then you have 220 Central Park South. You also have 157, and I think 157 was the original building that kickstarted the whole trend of Billionaires Row. I believe the developers was Extel Group. Absolutely beautiful building. An interesting fact about 157, which is right here, by the way, with the sort of curvature on the top, there's actually one of the top 5-star hotels in Manhattan that actually shares that building, and it's called the Hyatt, so the Park Hyatt. And I believe the average hotel room in that particular hotel, the Park Hyatt at 157, is almost $1,000 a night, but it shares all of the amenities of the traditional residential building right there at 157. Right there on Billionaires Row. But here we are at Lincoln Center. The Jazz at Lincoln Center. Hey, James says there are several Hyatts in Manhattan. Yeah, there are, but this is called the Park Hyatt. Hold on, I'll give you guys another view. Maybe a little bit better view I think we have here. Hey, Deet says hello, chat. Good to see you. Yogi says, did you see any more of those protests going on Friday in Miami? I have not. I have not ran into any protests. So if you guys look dead center in the middle of your screen, the tallest building here that you'll see is Central Park Tower. I believe it is the tallest building on Billionaires Row. And then the one with the gold top. Funny enough, we were just talking about Ken Griffin from Citadel. I believe Ken Griffin owns the top 4 floors of this building that is called 220 Central Park South. If you make your way over to the left, the one with the extremely, extremely illuminant top, that is 157. And then one more to the left is called the Steinway Building. In all honesty, I think that's probably my least favorite building on Billionaires Row, is this one. I think Central Park Tower is probably my favorite, and then it's going to be 157. I think 157 is such a classic, iconic looking building. And then last but not least, everybody, we have 432 Park Avenue, which is another very iconic building to cap off Billionaires Row. But speaking of 5-star hotels, right here where you see all the flags, This is actually the entrance to the Mandarin Oriental. And if you guys remember from the Miami streams, Brickell Key is another one of the locations of the Mandarin Oriental. I think this is another very, very expensive 5-star hotel as well. Hey, Pamela Ann is here. Says, hello, Tom. Hope you're having a great night. You know, Pamela, I'm having a good night. When we started the stream, it was extremely humid, but actually the humidity is dying down, which is actually pretty good. So excited about that. James says Brickell is where Griffin has his operations now. Yeah, I think, well, supposedly I think they're building a brand new building. So I don't think the construction is there yet, but. So here we have Deutsche Bank. So I actually used to work down on Wall Street, right next to the Deutsche Bank. I've showed you guys my old office. But Deutsche Bank, I believe, is, I don't remember the exact address, maybe 80 Wall Street or 60 Wall Street, I forget. But this is the Mandarin Oriental right here. Hey, Denise is here, says love the New York City noise. Hey, Denise, good to see you. This is the very famous Mandarin Oriental right here. James is, man, Tom is right up to date on this Griffin stuff. We're on top of it, You know, one of my good buddies who works as a quantitative in Chicago is actually going to be moving to Miami, so maybe we'll see him on the stream sometime. Chris Beeman is here. Welcome, Chris. Good to see you. So as you can see, there's a lot of black cars out here, probably shuttling very important people to and from the hotel. I've never stayed in this hotel, but it does look absolutely gorgeous in the lobby, doesn't it? Hold on, let me show you guys the chandelier here. Can you guys see it? Check that out. Look at how unique that is. Sabrina Fair's like, Tom, let's stop for a champagne cocktail. I'm down. I don't drink alcohol. I'll get like a club soda. We'll hang out. Oh, check out the horse. Yeah, Anna, isn't it gorgeous? Look at that thing. That's absolutely beautiful. It's such a unique looking chandelier as well. I don't even know if you could call that a chandelier, would you? It almost looks like an octopus type thing, I guess. I don't know. It looks beautiful. So everybody, tonight we are going to be doing the Markets a Look Ahead stream. We already covered what's happening tomorrow on Wall Street. So tomorrow, Jefferies Financial Group and Nike will be reporting earnings. Now, I think I'm probably more interested in Nike's earnings as opposed to Jefferies, because mainly a lot of the important financial organizations already reported at the very, very beginning of earnings season. And I believe that, you know, if we see conclusive data out of Nike that revenues are growing in the United States, specifically that the health of the US consumer is better than expected. So I think that's going to be a pretty good leading indicator for the economy. But also tomorrow, the National Association of Realtors will release its pending home sales index for May. The consensus estimate is for a 99.3 reading, roughly even with April's reading. The latest contract signings mark 6 consecutive months of declines and are at the lowest pace in nearly a decade, according to the National Association of Realtors economist Lawrence Yun. So pending home sales are definitely a good leading indicator, because obviously pending home sales, it still takes a couple of months for those deals to close. You know, although new home sales, we got new home sales data out last week, and it actually came in better than expected. There was actually more new homes sold than expected. Obviously, there is a massive difference. Many people get them confused. We have the new home sales numbers, and then we have the existing home sales numbers. Not to get them confused. But that is coming up tomorrow. But if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. We go live, I'd say about 5 days a week. 5 days a week between New York City and Miami. We'd love to have you guys back. Hey, Marcelo Gill says, hey Tom, nice to see you again on my TV. Hey Marcelo, it's good to see you. Marcelo, we actually may walk past the UBS tonight. I know your daughter works at UBS, so we'll definitely walk past there for you. But right now we are looking at the one and the only Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South. Ren 1018 says, absolutely loving the stream. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mariano says, good night, Tom. Good to see you. I see Jason Francis here. What's up, Jason? Benjamin Oliver says, Brazil, hello. You know, we have a lot of Brazilian viewers, which I really appreciate. So thank you, everybody that is tuning in from Brazil. I really, really appreciate it. Hopefully one day I'll be able to visit Brazil. Lee Arnett is here. Says, hey, Tom. Wow, New York is really beautiful at night. You know, New York was especially beautiful this weekend for any of my fellow New Yorkers that were walking around the city. Really nice, really nice. You know, I think the vast majority of New Yorkers would probably say, you know, it was a little bit too hot. But for me, I actually like the heat and humidity. I think it got up to a high of about 92 degrees yesterday, but it was beautiful. It was a gorgeous day. You know, look out next week. I'm actually going to upload a standalone video, a walking tour of Central Park. So look out for that. I shot that, filmed it today. Central Park was absolutely on fire, rocking today, which was awesome. Hey, my good friend Ramsey is here. Says, hey Tom, what's up, bro? Good to see you, Ramsey. Not too much, we're just chilling. We're hanging out tonight, doing the markets, a look ahead stream. You know, I do want to jump ahead really quick now that I think the vast majority of the core viewers are here. So as we've been talking about almost ad nauseum, I think now, on the streams and in the Behind the Street newsletter, I think the number one most important thing we need to look at and analyze is the Institute for Supply Management's PMI numbers. Okay, and the PMI numbers are released the first business day of every single month. So this Friday, so Thursday is the end of the month, end of the quarter. So obviously a lot of my salespeople, including myself, are going to be extremely busy for the end of the month and the end of the quarter to close out those big deals. But Friday is July 1st, in which case the Institute for Supply Management will release its manufacturing for June. Forecast call for 56 reading. Now, if you read the Behind the Street newsletter 2 weeks ago, I outlined just how important. I'll explain why. So if we look at the United States, it makes up about 20% of gross domestic product or GDP. So why is that important? Well, okay, about an 80% correlation if we look forward 12 months. We can predict if the S&P 500 will be up, down, sideways, whatever you want to call it, based upon those readings in the Institute of Supply Management's PMI numbers. So a reading above 50 means that the manufacturing sector in the United States is growing or expanding. However, if you get a reading below 50, that means the manufacturing sector in the United States is contracting. So here's where the data could be a little bit misleading, and we'll talk about this for a little bit. So if we know that the number that's going to come out on Friday, many economists on Wall Street are expecting a 55 reading. Okay, so what did we just say? Any reading above 50 means expansion in the manufacturing sector, but that's not the whole story here. Here's the whole story, I'll tell you. The whole story is that last month in May, we got a 56 reading. Okay, and then the month before that, I think we had almost a 60 reading. So what is the trend showing now? Well, the trend is showing deceleration in the PMI numbers. So even though the number is over 50 and we are technically expanding, we're seeing steep deceleration here. So what that means is the manufacturer's purchasing index, the PMIs, are rolling over here, in which case that is very, well, I should say it has a very high correlation with the potential recession. Okay, so when we get our GDP numbers out, if we have 2 consecutive quarters of contraction, that is a technical recession. But if you just looked at this in face value and didn't understand the trend, that the PMI numbers were, although they're still above 50, they are continually decelerating, we may be caught off guard here. So definitely check that out. Look out for that on Friday, because Friday is the first of the month, as crazy as that sounds. Thunderbirds is the headline. Unemployment rate is also quite misleading. That is true, actually, Thunderbird. That is true. That is true. That is true. With the employment numbers, I always like to look for, drawing a blank here. There's too much noise around. I always like, in terms of employment, the number one thing I like to look for is the labor force participation rate. I think that is more of an inclusive statistic to show the health of the U.S. economy, the labor force participation rate. And if we remember correctly, 2 weeks ago when we heard from the Federal Reserve, Fed Chair Jerome Powell actually came out and said he is very concerned that the labor force participation rate is still at pre-pandemic, or is still what it was at the height of the pandemic. That means not a lot of able-bodied working individuals are looking for a job. They've just given up looking for a job. So that is definitely a cause for concern, I would say. Hey, Robert is here. Hey, Robert, good to see you. Hey, photos from around New York. Welcome. Good to see you. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Photos from around New York. Hey, Joe Hernandez. What's up, Joe? Long time no see. Hopefully you're doing well. Always a pleasure to have you here, Joe. This Tom always explains things so awesome. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. James, there's plenty of jobs out there if you want one. I mean, James, you're not wrong. Right? I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think there's more jobs available in the United States right now than people looking for jobs. Is that correct? There's more people right now, or there's more jobs available in the US right now than there are people looking for jobs. I think it's like a 2-to-1 ratio, or maybe like a 1.5 to 1 ratio. But here we have the Brooklyn Diner right here. Carson says 2 jobs for every 1 unemployed. I think you're right. Lisa's here, says I agree, good to see you. Sabrina Fair, welcome. Peter Webley says plenty of bad jobs. Jordan LeBeau says, hey Tom, how are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Doing better now that you're in the chat. Photos from around New York says got in some exercise and saw a portion of the parade. Love that. So photos from around New York. I got to tell you something. Speaking about exercise, I went to a traditional gym for the first time in a long time, and man, did it feel good. Did it feel good, because I used to work out every single day like crazy when I was in college, because obviously I had to. If anybody's played college sports, it's really rigorous. You have like your personal trainers and they make you do a bunch of crazy stuff. And I think at that time, it almost made me hate working out because I had to do it so often. So when I entered the working world and away from the athletic world, I was like, yeah, I could sort of, slack off a little bit. And then especially during the pandemic, I only really just ran and done some pull-ups and push-ups. But I was in the gym today and it felt great. It felt amazing. Hey, Snarky Travelers here says good evening from Toronto. Love that. Love Canada. I should be in Toronto later this year. Cooking says, what sport did you play? I played soccer. I was a big soccer player growing up. Mr. Ming says, all right, I got approved to join an exclusive online community. Very nice, Mr. Ming. Love that. Congratulations on your success. This guy's trying to get the bus. All right. Yeah, cooking says I've never been to Toronto, but I really want to. Agreed. You know, I've been to Toronto once, but it was when I was a little kid. I don't really count it. Yeah, I know. Photos like can't get the bus in the middle of the street. Well, I guess he learned his lesson. So everybody, this is what we were talking about tonight on the stream. So we are now passing in front of 157, which is the original building on Billionaires Row, right here. Okay, so this entrance is where the residences go in. So if you own an apartment or a condominium here at 157, you go in this entrance. But the unique thing about this building is not only the beautiful artwork here and the art galleries, but it also shares the building with the Park Hyatt Hotel. So it's shared. So all of the amenities, all of the restaurants and things like that, I believe there's a pool as well, are shared with the Park Hyatt, which is right here. And I believe this is one of the, I'm not sure how many exactly 5-star hotels there are in New York City, but this is definitely one of them, and it is a beautiful, beautiful hotel. Park Hyatt, New York, right here. And so one of the tenants in 157 is Bill Ackman, which is a very large hedge fund manager at Pershing Square. So Bill Ackman is known not only for his nascent feuds with billionaire Carl Icahn. So if anybody's been watching, all of those CNBC feuds back in the day with Carl Icahn, in which time Carl Icahn and his firm actually had a massive, massive long position. I keep forgetting that company. I always forget it. Herbalife. There we go. Herbalife. In which case, Bill Ackman actually posted or published a short thesis on the company, alleging that it was a Ponzi-like scheme or a multi-level marketing scheme, the Herbalife. In which case, Pershing Square posted a pretty convincing, piece, a short thesis, saying that Herbalife preys on minority communities and makes them sell products, in which case it is sort of like a pyramid-style scheme. So Carl Icahn and Bill Ackman went back and forth almost ad nauseum on CNBC, which was a very, very entertaining time to be involved in the financial markets. But most notably and most recently, Bill Ackman did make over $1 billion in one single trade in his tail risk portfolio, in which case he bought swaps on the S&P 500 during the coronavirus crisis, making his firm windfall profits. But then he made a very, very bad trade, as we all do, on Netflix. I think they had about a $500 million loss betting on Reed Hastings' company, Netflix. But nonetheless, Bill Ackman is still a very, very successful man, in which he is a hedge fund manager that I respect a great, great deal. It is the top of the hour, my friends. So it is time for a water break. Also, if you like what you've been hearing on the stream, I would ask you to please join us over at the Behind the Street newsletter. So if you want to scan the QR code on your screen, every other Tuesday after the market closes, you will get all of my equity research for free, not only on the US equity markets, but emerging markets as well. We talk about the fixed income markets, we talk about the currency markets. So please scan the QR code and punch in your email, and you will receive a free financial newsletter written by myself, the Behind the Street newsletter, every other Tuesday. It is a great way to support the channel for free, and it's a great way for me to stay in contact with all of you on the stream as we send out our equity research for free. And a lot of big things are coming on the Behind the Street newsletter, so you do not want to miss an article. All right, I gotta get some water, gotta rehydrate because it is quite humid. and then we'll head out. I see Don Smith says Carl, Carl I think Don, you got to repost the comment there. Yogi says too many pocket thieves. Billy says I used to wear my backpack in the front, mainly between recess and lunch. Vinny Castellano says, who would you choose to be your CEO or CFO? Well, if I needed a CEO or CFO, ooh, it's actually a good question. I don't know. I don't think I need a CEO or CFO, but I'll just give you this. What is the CEO that I respect the most? Probably Howard Schultz. I think he's a great businessman. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased because he's a New Yorker, but I think just Howard Schultz's story in general is very, very inspiring if anybody's ever read his books. And he actually got his start in sales. I think he was actually a salesman for Xerox. So talk about, getting out there, getting it done, the American dream, getting it out, pushing and shoving and getting your way. Howard Schultz, very good guy. Also, whenever you hear him speak, he has very good tonality in his voice, very commanding voice, but also he's not an intimidating force. So a lot of CEOs out there can be often very intimidating, in which case your employees really won't want to, talk to the CEO and tell them things that are going wrong in the business. I think Howard Schultz has a very good moderate tonality to him. He carries himself well. So even though he gets down to business, he is a true free market capitalist. I think he balances it out quite well. I think he does a good job. And I don't think many CEOs on Wall Street are able to do the same thing that he does. Maybe Mark Benioff, I'd say. But, I think Mark Benioff could be rather abrasive too. But also, love Mark Benioff. Great book, by the way, if you want to read his book, Trailblazer. And for those people that are watching the chat that do not know who Mark Benioff is, he is the CEO and founder of Salesforce. So Salesforce is the original SaaS, software as a service company, specializing in customer relationship management software. The ticker symbol is CRM, and they actually just completed an acquisition of Slack, which used to be a publicly traded company under the ticker symbol WORK. That is an enterprise software company that competes with the likes of Microsoft Teams. All right, so now we are on 56th Street headed downtown. This is 6th Avenue. Fun fact, I used to go in this Chipotle to eat almost every single day on lunch. Hey, Sunshine, New York City, what's up? Sunshine, always a pleasure to see you. Hopefully you had a very good weekend. Love having Sunshine, New York City in the chat. Thank you for all of your help with the channel. Lisa says, good night, everybody. See you on Wednesday. Lisa, yes, we'll see you Wednesday. Thank you for joining, Lisa. Hey, Nicole is here. Says, hey, Tom, good to see you. Hope all is well. Nicole, what's up? From California. Good to see you. So, Nicole, didn't you tell us that you're coming to New York next month or something? I forget. It could have been somebody else, but Nicole, hopefully you get to New York pretty soon. Hopefully you had a good weekend. So Nicole, we were just at Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center looked absolutely beautiful tonight. And now we're going to walk back to the Moynihan train station, in which I have to go home. So I got to make the train, which I think we're making good timing, everybody. We're about an hour into the stream. Feels like we only started streaming about 20 minutes ago. Who else do we have? We have Perry Willix. Good to see you, Perry. Nicole's like, you'll be in August. Very nice. Hopefully you'll get some time to go out to Long Island. Hit some of the beaches. So, being a Long Islander myself, I think I have a very controversial opinion on the best beaches on Long Island. Many Long Islanders, especially if you're a resident of Oyster Bay, which I am, they'll say, oh, you know, Tobay Beach is the best beach to go to, but in all honesty, I like Jones Beach. I mean, the whole thing about Long Islanders is like, oh, you know, Jones Beach gets too crowded with everybody coming in from the city. I don't know, I love Jones Beach. I went there almost every single day in the summer as a kid. I think Jones Beach, and then also Robert Moses State Park. Fantastic beaches if anybody's been there. But Tobay is a nice beach, I'm not gonna lie. It's a good beach, but I think I'd much rather go to Jones or Robert Moses. What do you guys think? Yeah, Joe Hernandez says Jones Beach is awesome, I love it. James says Jones Beach is great, especially if you were there late in the day, after the crowds and when the parking is free. Yes, Field 5, or Field 4 I think is the main field. Nicole says yes, I've never been to Long Island. What do you suggest? I usually stay in the city. You gotta take the train out to Long Island at least once. I would definitely suggest going to Jones Beach. You know, and it's actually pretty easy to get to Jones Beach by public transit, by the way. If you take the Long Island Railroad from Penn Station, you get off at Freeport, there's a free bus that goes to Jones Beach. But everybody, we are outside of Alliance Bernstein, which is also a big money manager on Wall Street. Right in this building, though, is a major hedge fund, in which case we talk about Michael Novogratz a lot. So Fortress Investments is a very successful hedge fund. So Fortress has their office right in here. So Michael Novogratz, we talk about him a lot on the channel. He actually used to be a PM here at Fortress Investments, in which case he now runs Galaxy Digital Assets, which is, well, supposedly is supposed to be an onboarding mechanism or onboarding broker-dealer for institutional investors to get exposure to the cryptocurrency markets. So as a lot of ex-Wall Streeters try to make the big push to getting institutional investors involved in the cryptocurrency space, you need traditional onboarding ramps, and that is what Michael Novogratz and Galaxy Digital Assets is trying to do. Hey Joseph, what's up? This is last time I was in Long Island. I've never heard of that actually, Joseph. Let me take a screenshot of that. I've never been. Nicholas Dura says, I've been to Long Island. I would really like to visit Hempstead or Brookhaven one of these days. Interesting choice of towns. I'm liking it. Interesting choice. Hey, Daniel is here. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you. XRP, good to see you. Username says the globe looks awesome. Yeah, we'll check it out again. This is Alliance Bernstein building. Oh, Joseph says it's in Huntington. It was a St. Jude fundraiser. Ah, very cool. That's awesome. So Joseph, when I was at my last company, I actually used to work right there off of the North Service Road in Melville, New York. And I believe Jamie Dimon has one of his personal residences in Melville. So right there in Middle Island, like Mid-Island. Melville was a pretty nice town, but it's a little bit too far of a drive, especially if you're commuting from like Massapequa or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the best spots, you know, if you ever venture way far out on Long Island, you know, my cousins used to live in Watermill, New York, and Watermill is a very, very small town on the outskirts of Southampton. Absolutely beautiful. But when you're out there, you got to watch out for the ticks, because a lot of Long Islanders, well, a lot of people that aren't Long Islanders will go out to Suffolk County, will go out to the Hamptons, and they won't watch for ticks. But every Long Islander knows, you got to be careful of the ticks, especially out in Suffolk County, because they are riddled with Lyme disease. And here's one of the things that happens, unfortunately. A lot of celebrities that are not familiar with Long Island or New York, they come to the Hamptons, they play around in the sand dunes, they get bit by ticks and they get Lyme disease and they don't even know about it. So if you're ever in the Hamptons, specifically out east in Suffolk County, you gotta buy tick spray. So spend the $20, buy the tick spray, because it's a serious thing, Lyme disease. It could essentially upend your life and ruin your life. Unfortunately, my cousin had Lyme disease and then unfortunately developed diabetes. Now, there's probably no correlation between the two, but it's just a coincidence. And a lot of coincidental weird things happen after you have Lyme disease. So please be cognizant of that. All right, so we're outside of our good friend Charles Schwab building. If you guys want to read a good book on business and entrepreneurship in America, how to make it big, read Charles Schwab's book. Very, very inspiring book. One of the true great Americans, Charles Schwab, fantastic guy. Marcelo says, this is my favorite avenue. When I'm in New York City next year, I'll be there. And you will be my guest for dinner at your favorite restaurant. Marcelo, dinner's on me. If you're ever in New York, let me know. But yeah, I used to work right around here, man. You know, I used to work in the Marsh McLennan building, which is actually this building right here. My office used to be right there. Hey, Brian Suarez, what's up? Good to see you, Brian. From Ecuador, welcome. So this is the Halal Guys. Very famous halal food here. Honest, isn't Lyme disease temporary or resolves itself in a few weeks or month? Well, Lyme disease can go undetected, unfortunately, for years. You know, I knew somebody who had Lyme disease for 8 years and didn't even know it. And only knew about it because he started getting these crazy bloody noses that wouldn't stop. And it turns out he had Lyme disease and he developed an extremely rare blood condition from it. Unfortunately, so gotta watch yourself. Vinny Castellano says, have you ever been to South Beach in Staten Island? I have not. You know, Vinny Castellano, the only time I've been to Staten Island, to be honest, is when I used to play the College of Staten Island. So we used to play them, in soccer all the time. So I think I've only been to CSI like twice. But I haven't really spent much time in Staten Island, to be totally honest with you. Brian Flores, good to see you. Yeah, Marcelo says UBS is nearby. It's right here. So UBS is right across the street from Nürburgring Berman. And then if you go one more block, you'll run into the Japanese investment bank Mizuho. You know, some news out of Mizuho last week. One of the major analysts, I forget his name, I'll have to post it in the Discord, is really speaking out here against the BOJ or the Bank of Japan, because you're seeing this unbelievable divergence in monetary policy between all of the global central banks, right? You're seeing the Federal Reserve here in the United States take really, really aggressive measures in their monetary policy, starting quantitative tightening. You're also seeing the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell raise interest rates. You're seeing the same thing in the European Central Bank with Christine Lagarde and all of them, right? Starting quantitative tightening, raising interest rates. But the one central bank that's sort of bucking this trend and that is still on the monetary policy path of easy money and quantitative easing is the Bank of Japan. They're still buying treasuries, they're still buying assets, and they're still keeping interest rates artificially suppressed. So if we know that interest rates move inverse to bond prices, the central bank or the Bank of Japan will get in there and buy bonds to suppress rates, in which case this is called yield curve control. So I think you're seeing a lot of this stuff starting to come to roost in the currency markets, in which case we've been talking about this in the Behind the Street newsletter. I'm like, guys, look at the Japanese yen, not good, falling off of a cliff there. So could we be seeing markets signal to the Bank of Japan that we are not, essentially not having trust in the currency because you keep devaluing it, right? By printing money, by keeping monetary conditions extremely loose. So there was a great piece out of Mizuho, which is actually right here. We'll actually take a walk past it, but you could actually see the Mizuho sales and trading floor. But one really notable analyst, I just am blanking on his name, came out with a really interesting thesis, I guess you could say, or a piece, note to investors about the criticisms he has of the Bank of Japan. Wow, it looks like they have a little bit of like an impromptu art gallery here. This looks pretty cool. Hey, Joan is here. What's up, Joan? Ooh, Brad's brain. I didn't even notice that. Did a biker almost fall off his bike or something? Nicholas Dura, good to see you. Username says, do you see the Bank of Japan changing its approach anytime soon? I mean, I hope so, but at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like they will be changing their approach. But, you know, here's the thing that's sort of baffling to me, and we've talked about this on the stream before. So if you think about monetary policy globally, right, even though, I guess we'll talk about fiscal and monetary policy, but real quick, I'll zoom in on the, so this is the Mizuho sales and trading desk. You see it? See all the Bloomberg terminals and all that stuff? So people around the world have been major critics of US fiscal and monetary policy. So I think quickly for the group, we'll make a quick distinction. So fiscal policy is like government spending, how the government spends tax dollars. And monetary policy is set by central banks, such as the Federal Reserve. So even though we've been very critical here in the United States, in comparison to the rest of the world, it seems that the world is flocking to US dollars, which is a little bit almost unbelievable, because even though we've been talking about on the stream, you know, the United States printed trillions of dollars due to the COVID pandemic. I blame that on the Federal Reserve, but also it's been poor fiscal policy as well. But if you think about it, even though we printed all this money, even though we are so irresponsible on the fiscal policy and monetary policy front, look at the US dollar. I mean, the USD strength is at multi-year highs. I think we're breaking above highs that we last saw in 2011. So on a relative basis, right? So whenever we talk about currency strength, yes, I understand that the US dollar has lost about 90% of its purchasing power, but we have to understand and talk about these global currencies on a relative basis. So what do I mean by that? So on a relative basis, the world prefers US dollars. And we know this because if we look at, you know, the Japanese currency, for example, it's falling off a cliff. You know, if you just go on tradingview.com or even Google and look at, you know, the Japanese yen to USD, US dollars, you'll see, you know, US dollar is on a tear. So to me, that signals that the world still has extreme trust in the United States, even though we printed trillions of dollars, even though our political climate is in a total mess. It's almost like we are the least worst in the world, if that makes sense. Yeah, so Carson says Microsoft also guided down. So Microsoft guided down, so to your point, you're right. You know, if you have a multinational company where they deal in many different markets globally in many different currencies, you know, if you earn currency, let's say in yuan, or you earn currency in yen, or whatever type of currency you want, and if one of those currencies fall off a cliff and is headed towards zero, well, that's going to affect your bottom line. So currency markets have really been hurting here. So yes, Microsoft did signal some currency worries there that may impact earnings. So you're 100% right on that. But here we have Radio City Music Hall, the one, the only. So this is the main top of the rock right here. Hey, Thunderbird is here, says Tom. It seems investors believe that central banks like the Federal Reserve or Bank of Canada are actually serious about tightening policy. Otherwise, they would be buying up stocks like Barrick Gold. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right. I mean, maybe some investors are going to call a bluff on the Federal Reserve, but at the end of the day, I think the market, and we've been talking about this a while, the market looks out 12 months. So if you look at all of the damage that's been done, you know, you have some of these very high beta tech stocks that are down 90%. I mean, if you really look under the hood of this market, there's extreme decimation here in the market. So usually what will happen is price action will move and then the event will happen. Because if you look at the market, it is a forward-looking indicator. So to your point, I think the market is actually doing the majority of the Fed's work for the Fed, if that makes sense. Hey, Carmelo Freestyle is here. Hey, Carmelo says, I love your channel, very informative. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully you're enjoying the beautiful views of the city. Oh my God, everybody, it's the Papa Smurf OG. What's up? It says, rain is coming tomorrow to New York City. We need it, Tom. The heat is crazy. Hey, big shout out to the FDNY. So the Papa Smurf, the OG, is New York City's finest New York City firefighter. So big shout out to all of the FDNY working to keep us safe, especially during crazy times like this. So big shout out to the FDNY. Big supporters of both the NYPD and FDNY here on the Walks on Wall Street channel. So thank you for everything you do, and hopefully you had a good weekend. You know, I didn't know it was supposed to rain tomorrow. Hopefully it doesn't, but you know, to your point, I think we do need some rain here. The streets are looking a little bit dirty, so usually when it downpours in the city, it sort of, you know, acts as like a cleansing mechanism to the city for sure. But good to see you, my friend. Hey, Chris says, was the musical Annie filmed at Radio City Music Hall in 1980? Ooh, I have no idea. To be totally honest, I don't know. Maybe photos from around New York knows, but that's really not my expertise. It could have been. I'm just not 100% sure, to be honest. Gregory says Fountain, 10 out of 10, I agree. 1,000%. Western Mass Dave says potential thunderstorms for tomorrow. Hey, Abstract Angel Artist is here. It says gorgeous view. Thank you for joining. Austin says the NFL draft held at Radio City Music Hall for many years. Love that. Love that. Dennis says yes, it was the scene where they went to the movies to see. Okay, I'm not a big, you know, I may have to rewatch that movie. I'm not a big, I'm trying to remember what the movie's about. No, I know what it's about. The orphan, the little orphan Annie, right? Yeah, I'm right. Raul Roca is here. It says, good night, everybody. Buenos noches a todos. Greetings from Colombia. Hey, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. J Nibs says, Tom, your prediction, will oil be above or below $100 by December 31st? I'm going to say below. I'm going to say below. You know, okay, let's talk about that for a minute. So in May, so this is the, hold on, before we talk about oil, let's talk about halal food. I think it's a little bit more important. So this is by far the best halal spot in New York City. It's called Adele's Famous. Fantastic, fantastic place. But the line is so long that it may take you like 2 hours to actually get the food. Usually the line, due to more tourists being in the city, also for the Pride Month and the Pride Parade, I think a lot of people are in the city. This is probably like a 3.5 hour line. Even though it may not look so long, this is definitely a 3 hour line. No, not even a question. 3 hour line. So here's my thoughts on commodities overall. So if anybody follows me on Twitter, if you want to connect with us on Twitter at Walks Wall Street, oftentimes I'll post throughout the day my thoughts on the markets. So here's one thing that I'm seeing and I'm watching very, very closely here, and it's called demand destruction. So there's a couple things that the Federal Reserve can do in terms of their tools to sort of have the economy cool down, so to speak. And one of the things that they can do is obviously raise interest rates, the federal funds rate. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they can reduce their balance sheet. So the Federal Reserve balance sheet is made up of primarily two things. Number one, mortgage-backed securities. In which case, by the way, a quick segue, 2 weeks ago, the MBS market went no bid. I almost couldn't believe it. I mean, talk about a lack of liquidity, but we'll cover that in a minute. And number two, US Treasuries. So as the Federal Reserve buys treasuries, that expands the money supply, the dollars floating around in the economy. But as they start quantitative tightening, what happens is those assets start to either roll off the balance sheet or get sold. So the reason why that's important is because usually as the Fed starts quantitative tightening and raising interest rates, asset prices get destroyed. And as asset prices get destroyed, that usually, or there's an economic theory out here, that it can lead to demand destruction. So let's say if I have $1 million stock portfolio and the market's down 30%, right? Well, I'm not worth $1 million anymore. I'm worth a lot less, $300,000 less. Or, if I have $1 million stock portfolio, stocks drop 50%, now I'm only worth $500,000. You get the point. So the theory behind the demand destruction is that it will decrease, or people won't be as apt to spend money in the economy. So I think the commodities sector, if you look at major commodities like copper, copper is starting to roll over here. If you look at crude oil put in a high in May at about $130. We are now sitting below our 50-day moving average. So it is possible. I'm not going to say that this is a top in the commodities cycle, but commodities tend to be very cyclical. But here's the thing, what I'm trying to get at. Usually commodities will sort of tell you or be a forward indicator in terms of demand. So you think about people buying houses, because let's say if housing starts are down, I think we got data, new home starts or housing starts are down 14%. Well, if housing starts are down 14%, well, the builders and the contractors are going to be buying a lot less copper, a lot less lumber. You get the picture. So the commodities market may be signaling a demand destruction type top, which I think is actually going to be pretty good for the average consumer who's spending $5 a gallon on gas. On this channel, we've been talking a lot about a potential for a commodity super cycle, which is also possible. But as of right now, there could be one or two things happening. This could just be a normal pullback in commodities, in which case this dip will get bought, or this could be something more serious, in which case the demand destruction theory will sort of play out. But if you follow me at Walks Wall Street on Twitter, there's a very notable hedge fund manager by the name of Dan Tapiero. And Dan actually used to work as a portfolio manager directly under Stanley Druckenmiller. So he is a super, super successful guy. And this is sort of his thesis. He thinks the Federal Reserve is overdoing it. He thinks that inflation has peaked. Because if you think about it, the average stock in the S&P 500 is down about, I believe, over 30%, right? So that leads into the thesis of demand destruction. So I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing. I'm just saying that we definitely should keep tabs on that. So if I was a betting person, I'd say, oil will be back under $100 a barrel. Napoleon says you should join IP2 network. IP2 network. What is that? Kirby says every restaurant has now hiring. Yeah, you're right. So this is the Marsh McLennan Building here, 1166 Avenue of the Americas, on West 46th Street. This is actually my old office building right here. J Nibs is $100 agreed. Thanks for the stream. I mean, I hope so. I mean, for the average American that has to put gas in their tank, hopefully, I hope it comes down. Hope it comes down. Napoleon says it's a network for IRL streamers. Yeah, I mean, we just really just do this after work. It's not like really a big thing. I think we're all right. But I appreciate the offer. Thank you so much. But we just do these streams after work. It's not, I don't think we'll have time for like a group or anything, but I do appreciate the offer. Dusty says Marsh McLennan. Good to see you, Dusty. Dr. Longus. Hey, Kathy Lyons is here. This is Happy Sunday, Tom. Hope you had a great day. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I just spent this weekend. I kind of took the weekend off. I did some reading, did some planning. It's going to be a busy week ahead, but I think I'm actually going to maybe take off a couple days this week. Wow, check out the Empire State Building tonight. So as we get close to the Empire State Building, right under the Bank of America Tower, we're going to see some amazing views of the Empire. Nicole B. Winning says, Tom, when you're in Miami, do you rent a car? I don't, so I just take public transit. To be honest. I don't really like driving. I'm not really too big of a fan of driving. Marty Lewis is just popping in to say hello. Marty, what's up? Always good to see you. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining Marty Lewis. Napoleon says thoughts on the Celsius Network rug pull. Yeah, so we talk about that kind of stuff a lot on the stream. So we have a lot of people asking a lot of questions about like the alternative coins. I think you guys know my opinion. I've given it many times. I think the vast majority of the alt or alternative coins, if you will, are outright scams. So I don't participate in any of that stuff. I mean, I think you sort of have to go back to investing basics 101. If you have any sort of investment that's promising you 20% annual returns, I mean, it's obviously a Ponzi scheme. I mean, it's blatantly obvious, but a lot of novice investors unfortunately fall for a lot of that stuff, and it can hurt a lot of people. So I would completely stay away from all the altcoins, in my opinion. Also, Gary Gensler has came out and said that probably the vast majority of these altcoins are securities, in which case if they're securities, these things are going to go to zero overnight and all their founders are probably going to go to jail for soliciting these unlicensed securities. I know that's a pretty hot take, but from my brief understanding of securities law, if I was SEC Chair Gary Gensler, I'd say, yeah, these altcoins, essentially they're just software companies that are creating unlicensed securities and soliciting them to unbeknownst investors. So yeah, that's an unlicensed security. So look, the good news is the SEC is going to get involved here. The Empire State Building looks unbelievable. Check that out. Wow. So the good news is the SEC is going to get involved here. The bad news is the SEC and regulators always get involved after the retail investor gets fleeced. So the same thing that happened in 2008 with the financial crisis, once all of the homes were foreclosed on and went back to the banks, so after all the retail investors that were defrauded and scammed into getting adjustable rate mortgages, once all of those people were defrauded, then the regulators come in and start to do something about it. And then the cycle goes on. But the good news is now there's going to be regulatory oversight, 100%, which is good news for, in my view, again, in my opinion, for Bitcoin. So I think you're going to see a lot of long-time Bitcoiners here getting a lot of cheap Bitcoin, including myself. Hey, Dallas is here. Says, hey, Tom, good evening. Hope you're well. What's up, Dallas? We're overlooking the Empire State Building right here outside of the Bank of America Tower on 42nd Street. And I believe it is all lit up in rainbow colors for the June Pride month. Cayenne Pacific, good to see you. Honest, his Empire State Building is so pretty. Agreed, love it. Don Smith says Gary Gensler has a class on crypto from MIT. I think I've actually taken that. And look, if you guys know me, it can seem like I'm very bearish on the cryptocurrency environment. I'm actually not. I'm actually the most raging bull on blockchain technology and the like. But what I'm not a fan of is scamming people. And right now, if you don't have regulation, you're going to have people that exploit novice investors, which is not cool, very unethical. So again, not financial advice, but if it was me, I would not, especially if you're going to get involved in any of these DeFi projects. If anybody is promising you a free, risk-free rate of return of 20%, I mean, you just got to use your common sense. I mean, it's an obvious scam. To put it in perspective, you know, the average return on the S&P 500 is roughly 8% per year, and about 90% of hedge fund managers and money managers on Wall Street fail to outperform the market, and that's 8%. Okay, so if somebody's promising you 20%, I mean, it's an obvious fraud. So please, please, please do not fall for any of that nonsense. Hey, Austin City Limits, his stock market futures are in the green. Very nice. Austin City Limits, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Palmetti says 8% is good. 8% is very good. I mean, if you think about 8% compounded over 50 years, I mean, you're going to get really rich. You're going to get really rich. Hey, Dallas says, hey, Tom, congrats on 16,000 subscribers to your channel. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. It's been a blast so far. You know, I appreciate all of the viewers. You guys are the reason why the stream is what it is. So I appreciate all of you guys very much. You know, we briefly talked about Mark Benioff. This is the Salesforce tower right here. Kirby says, is Social Security a Ponzi scheme for the young workers? That's a little bit too controversial, but I will give my opinion on it. I won't go too into detail and hammer on it, but I would say yes. But maybe I'll go into a little bit why on another stream. Hey, 48, what's up? Good to see you, 48. Says, love the Empire State Building. Good to see you, 48. Welcome. But another key piece of economic news, everybody, coming out on Tuesday, June 28th. So S&P Dow Jones Indices releases its CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index for April. Home prices are expected to rise 21% year over year, which would surpass March's record increase of 20.6%. Home price appreciation has most likely peaked as the index reports data with the 3-month lag. Nearly all forward-looking indicators suggest that the housing market is cooling significantly. We talked about this at the beginning of the stream. I agree with that. What I think may happen is that a lot of people here are calling for a housing crash similar to 2008. I don't think so. In order for that to happen, there's going to need to be an ample amount of supply coming onto the market. We're just not seeing that amount of supply come onto the market just yet. What I do think will happen is that as interest rates go up, it is going to deter buyers from buying homes. So instead of the average home having, 40 or 50 offers, you're probably going to have the average home maybe having 1 to 5 offers, in which case it won't sell in 2 weeks, maybe it'll take 2 or 3 months to sell. So prices may not necessarily come down a lot. Prices may just not go up a lot. So real estate prices, over the next 5 years may go up 1%, or they may not go up at all. But I think to say that you're going to have a massive real estate crash. I just don't think we're seeing that in the data right now. Here's what I would say. Here's what data points would need to change for me to say, yes, we would have a housing crisis. Number one, defaults. Default rates on mortgage payments would have to absolutely skyrocket. Okay, and why do I say that? Well, as people default on their mortgages, they get foreclosed on. And in the foreclosure process, that means homes will be coming on to the market, thus increasing the overall amount of supply of single-family homes and just residential real estate in general on the market, in which case prices would come down. That is really what we would need to see, because if you look back, 20, 30 years ago, people were buying homes still at a 14% mortgage, right, or a 14% interest rate, right? So 6%, even though it's a little bit scary for people that may be young, like myself, if you look at the historical trend, I mean, there was a time when the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, everybody, was 14%. Okay, so the markets can handle it. I know it's a little bit scary right now, but so long as we don't see a huge supply of homes come onto the market, that was an awesome backflip. I don't think prices are going to collapse, but that's my 2 cents. 10 out of 10 on the backflip. Don't think the housing market is going to collapse, but it is a 10 out of 10 on the backflip. Kirby says, "Oh my gosh, the NHL has a new champion." So who is that, by the way? I'm not a big hockey viewer, but yeah, photos from around New York says 11 out of 10 on the backflip. Yeah, I mean, it's solid backflip. Let's see if he does another one. He did. Very nice. Love that. Who Dat Dave says, "Tom, two completely different scenarios. 2008 was caused by irresponsible lending practices." Yeah, Who Dat Dave, you're 100%, right? So we were talking about that as well. So the underwriting of these mortgages back in 2006 leading up to 2008 were egregious, right? So a lot of times they would give you a mortgage, or the bank would lend you money, and they didn't have any credit check, no income verification. They didn't even make sure you had ample amount of liquidity in your bank account to purchase the home, right? They were just giving you a loan with an adjustable rate, sometimes even no money down. What we're seeing, to Who Dat Dave's point, in this market cycle, I think this market cycle was the highest amount of homes ever purchased in history with all cash. So it's very hard to default on your mortgage if you don't have one. That's number one. Number two, in terms of down payments, we're tending to see people coming with strong down payments above 15%. Obviously, if you put down over 20% down on your home, you could avoid PMI insurance. Just to give you guys some perspective, for me, at the time, JP Morgan Chase wouldn't even give me a loan. They're like, nope, can't do it. And I had a very good income and a ton of cash in the bank. They still told me no, because I do not yet have 2 years of self-employment history making over $250,000. So obviously during the COVID pandemic, I left my company to try to do my own thing. Even though I was very well capitalized and still making a decent amount of money, they would not give me the loan because I was not a W-2 employee. If you want to qualify for a mortgage, if you are self-employed, you really need to have at least 2 years of working experience with income of about $250,000. So I think, to Who Dat Dave's point, the lending standards are very, very solid now. Drop says they want consistent, stable income for 2 years. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And here's the thing, Drop. What was really funny is that, I just quit my tech job, in which case I had a very lucrative job in tech sales, and they still would not take that W-2. In many cases, they will take the W-2 if you quit the job within 12 months. But in this cycle, I mean, JP Morgan told me kick rocks. So they said you have to put at least 25% down on the property, or we're not going to write the note. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll put 25% down. But if you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hey, Jason Gates, what's up? Good to see you. DowJones.eth, what's up? Dow Jones. Happy Sunday to you, my friend. Good to see you. James is 25% down in a property is pretty standard. Editor Informals is rare to see you in Times Square, as if you despise this spot as many do. Yeah, you know, I think we're going to make an exception since it's a Sunday night. We'll hang out a little bit in Times Square. Yeah, so username, so I got turned down for the loan because I wanted to put 3% down, right? Because I wanted to leverage this property a lot. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you have enough cash to pay for the property in full, you know, leveraging it does make a lot of sense. But they strong-armed me to put 25% down, which I didn't want to do, but essentially I had to. Espresso drops, that sucks. I know a guy that was in a similar situation. He wouldn't get a loan even though he had cash in the bank. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I was a little bit upset, but if you think about it, I think that's the responsible thing to do, because you don't want another situation like 2008 where, you know, you essentially crash the world economy, so. You know, a lot of tourists are in Times Square tonight, surprisingly. Jason Gates says, how are things in Miami? Miami's fantastic. I love it. Love it so far. But I think I've had enough of Times Square for tonight. We're going to head back down towards the Moynihan train station. But everything in Miami has been really good. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that a lot. Hey James, what's up? Hey, Melee is here. Says good evening from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Love Scranton, Pennsylvania. Good to see you, my friend. So just a quick reminder to everybody, we will not be live tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday. But we will be back live on Wednesday. I do have a couple things to attend to on Monday and Tuesday. It's going to be busy for me. Obviously, end of the week, end of the month, and end of the quarter as well. So need to close the quarter strong, need to close the month strong. So we will not be live. But if you want to still join in the chat, I probably will be still uploading some standalone videos if you guys want to hang out in the chat. So just be cognizant of that. Hey War Walker, good to see you. Hopefully you're having a good Sunday. Line Sinks is 6 months from now, right here where Tom's standing. They'll be getting ready for the New Year's Eve New York City ball drop. Oh my God, is that only 6 months away? That's insane how time flies. You know, I'm not sure if anybody in the chat was here for our New Year's Eve live stream. I thought that live stream was insane. You know, maybe we'll do it again this year. Who knows? Who Dat Dave says quarterly earnings will be interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, tomorrow, we're pretty much at the tail end of earnings season, but tomorrow we have reports from Nike, Also, the Jefferies Financial Group is reporting. But I think tomorrow, the number one thing that I'm looking out for is the National Association of Realtors will release its pending home sales index for May. So pending home sales data is coming out tomorrow. Obviously, last week we got the existing home sales data out, and the week before that we also got housing starts data out, which was actually down 14%. But as I was telling everybody earlier on the chat, the number one piece of economic data that is the most crucial and critical to look out for this week is on Friday. So Friday is actually the 1st of July, so happy July 1st to everybody. So on the 1st of July, the Institute for Supply Management will release its Pmi Index for June. So the first business day of every month, the Institute of Supply Management will release its Purchasing Managers Index. We are expected a reading of 55. May's reading was 56. So a quick recap on the PMI Index. Any reading over 50 signals an expansion in the manufacturing sector of the US economy. However, any reading below 50 signals contraction in the manufacturing sector. So why is this important to look out for? Well, 20% of GDP, or gross domestic product, in the United States comes through the manufacturing sector in the US. So if the manufacturing sector of the economy is growing, in which case GDP will grow, corporate earnings will grow, and statistically speaking, there's about an 80% correlation over the next 12 months, the S&P will be higher. But here's how that data could be a little bit misleading. We went over this already, but I think for the people that are just joining the chat, I'll go over it once more. So obviously in May, we had a reading of 56, which technically signals contraction in the manufacturing sector. Okay, but this month we're going to get a reading of 55, so slight deceleration. And I believe in April we had about a 58 reading. So what are we starting to see? We're starting to see the ISM manufacturing numbers, or the PMIs, start to trend lower and roll over here. Okay, so this is a huge leading indicator in the economy. So this is actually not good news. So even though technically the readings are over 50, we're starting to see deceleration in these numbers month over month, which is not good. Okay, so that signals contraction in the manufacturing sector, as there's a lot of talk on Wall Street that the economy may go into recession, and obviously the technical definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about, in detail, why the Institute of Supply Management PMI numbers are so important, please check out the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a free financial newsletter I write for everybody every other Tuesday after the market closes. So one of the things the institutional investors, a lot of institutional investors on Wall Street, if you've ever worked in sales and trading at an investment bank or something like that, the ISM manufacturing numbers are absolutely critical. So if you want to see a complete breakdown and write-up on that, if you scan the QR code on your screen, scan the QR code and punch in your email. It'll bring you to a landing page where you can sign up for the Behind the Street newsletter for free. And every other Tuesday, we will send you that newsletter after the bell rings for the close. So we talk about not only the US equity market, we talk about emerging markets, fixed income, as well as the housing market. So please scan the QR code, punch in your email, and thank you to all those who are reading, because we are now at 1,200 readers. So thank you everybody. It really means a lot that you take the time to read my work, and it's a great free way to support the stream. So thank you everybody. Hey, Jones, is time check 11:03. Ooh, we are right on time. I think my train is at 11:27. So we actually got to get going a little bit. Or if you type !news, NEWS, it will drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter. Please check it out. Car Tire says, you and I could be good friends. We both love talking about the economy. We are very intelligent and informed. Thank you so much, Car Tire. Yeah, love it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. In this building right here is a company called Third Bridge. So 1411 Broadway. Third Bridge is sort of like a consulting company. They compete with the likes of GuidePoint. And I am actually in the GuidePoint network. So sometimes they'll reach out to me if they have clients that want to consult on technology, mainly in relation to the wireline space. So MPLS networks and SD-WAN conversions, things like that. Yeah, Mike. Mike has a really good comment here. Let's read Mike's comment. So Mike has, Tom, there has been around 30 recessions since 1741, and all of them have rebounded eventually. It's no all part of the factual or fractional reserve. Hold on. It's no all part of the factual reserve banking boom and bust. Yeah, I mean, if you talk about like credit cycles, yeah, for sure. You know, there has been, ever since the lows of 2008, there is, I think, a 90% correlation between the expansion of the Fed's balance sheet and equity prices. So as the Fed continues to buy U.S. Treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, the prices of assets tend to trend higher. So we actually just started quantitative easing on June 1st. But if you actually look at the Fed balance sheet, which I think I sent the link in the Nightbot somewhere, we've actually technically not even started quantitative tightening yet, because they have not yet sold anything off their balance sheet as of yet. Napoleon, you are out of here. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Jason Gates says, hasn't the stock market been around for 2,000 years? Guys, let's not troll about anti-Semitic stuff in the chat. Appreciate it. Thanks. Who Dat Dave says, some of the best wisdom I ever had was from a guy, an old guy sitting at a bar. He said the big money in the stock market wants the stock market to succeed in the long run. I agree. I agree with that. I mean, so here's my thesis overall, right? I think everybody just needs to bet one way. I think over the long term, I still believe that corporate profits or corporate earnings in America will grow over the next 50 years. That is my belief. I think America is a one-way street. People come here for capital formation to build businesses. People want to be here, right? So long as the golden goose of capitalism continues to provide endless amounts of opportunities for everybody, people are going to want to start to create businesses here. They're not doing it in China. They're not doing it in other parts of the world. People want to come to the United States from all over the world. Entrepreneurs everywhere want to do it here. America has the best cities, the best education infrastructure, the best free markets. the most liquid and fair and transparent market. So when people create companies, they want to bring those companies public here. And I've always said it, so long as the golden goose of capitalism continues to roll on and America signals to the rest of the world that if you want to come here and you want to work hard, we will allow you a system to get extremely, extremely rich and to enrich yourself, your shareholders, and your family. And so long as that simple freedom lives on, I believe that corporate profits in America will continue to grow, just like it has for the last 100 years. So I think that's where we'll end it, everybody, because I do have to get my train. So I'll leave you off with this gorgeous view of the Empire State Building, obviously lit up in the rainbow colors for Pride Month of June. So everybody, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. We will see you here on Wednesday. So there will be no stream tomorrow. Unfortunately, there will be no stream on Tuesday, but there will be a stream on Wednesday. So please join us here on Walks on Wall Street, Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you are not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and we'll see you next time. So James, thank you so much for joining. 48, I appreciate it. Joan, Penelope, thank you so much. Penelope, I appreciate you. FredX, Ruby Falcone, thanks so much. All of our great moderators, Line Sync, Photos from Around New York, Gregory, and to the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there's always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks, everybody. Subscribe if you're new. We'll see you next time.